This is CBS.
Coming up next on PM Magazine, we continue Beantown to the Big Apple. PM hits the highlights. Tonight I'll be taking you to prestigious Beacon Hill in Boston.
And I'll be bringing you here to South Street Seaport. It's the fastest growing tourist attraction in New York City. We'll also meet the sex symbols of the 80s, so don't go away.
Cool and contemptible, hot and heavy, both describe the sex symbols of the 80s. Tonight on PM Magazine, we'll look at the looks that attract us today and predict the sex symbols of the next decade.
And then 200 of the world's best photojournalists were sent out to take pictures of one day in America. And they found that's not an easy task. We'll show you the many faces of our nation.
And we wrap up our look at Beantown and the Big Apple by asking some questions about those cities that Southern New England wants answered.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome tonight to PM Magazine. I'm Tim Klein, and this evening we are in Boston, in the prestigious Beacon Hill area of town. Behind me is a good-looking State House. You know, a lot of wealthy Bostonians live in Beacon Hill. Also, students who attend universities nearby live in this area. Beacon Hill happens to be the oldest residential area in America, dating back to the 17th century. But more on that later on. First of all, let me mention that all week long here on PM Magazine, Deborah and I have been going back and forth about the highlights of both Boston and New York City. But more importantly, we want to know which is your favorite city to visit. And that's why we want you to vote on our show. We'll tell you how to do that later on in tonight's program. But first, here is Deborah in the Big Apple.
In the middle of the busy Wall Street area, you find a 19th century fishing market. It's called South Street Seaport, and we'll be exploring it tonight. Hi, I'm Deborah Kent, and what better way to finish up our trip to New York City than to come to its #1 tourist attraction. South Street Seaport was built up by the same folks who developed Quincy Market, but little did they know that not only as a tourist attraction, but as a local hotspot, it'd be a big hit. Sometimes you can even spot celebrities down at Doug Flutie's bar. Well, when you think of celebrities and you think of sex symbols of the 80s, what faces will be memorable a decade from now? Well, we don't know for sure, but we thought we'd show you some candidates to choose from. From sex symbols of the 80s to models of the 80s, you can find just about anything here at South Street Seaport. There are restaurants, shops, comedy clubs, everything is happening. It is definitely the most exciting spot in New York right now. But when we come back, we're going to take a look at some pictures that capture the life of America in a day.
I believe that in 10 years of knowing you, I have talked to you at least once a day, every day for 10 years.
Except you were in Paris that week.
Oh,
I didn't talk to you for the week you were in Paris.
That's true. I didn't know how to dial home.
Yeah.
Everybody spoke French and I couldn't get through to the operator.
Yeah,
Watch Oprah, Gail's best friend, weekdays at 10 on Channel 3.
Welcome back to PM Magazine and to Beacon Hill, right here in Boston. Right by the State House and at the northern tip of the Boston Common, you'll find something called the Freedom Trail. Now, the Freedom Trail is a red painted line which leads all across Boston. It goes for about 2.5 miles and ends up in Charlestown, which is the site of the U.S. Constitution. Now, if you were to come to Boston and follow this trail, take it by foot or even ride around in your car, you'll pass about 16 different sites of historical significance in the history of America, like Paul Revere's house and even Faneuil Hall. You get a good sense of American history. Well, right now on PM Magazine, we'll get a good sense of the spirit of America as we take a look at a photo essay called A Day in the Life of America. If that doesn't make you feel patriotic about our country, I don't know what will. And if being in Beacon Hill doesn't make you feel proud of the American heritage that we've preserved here in New England, I don't know what will. This street, by the way, happens to be on the edge of Lewisburg Square. It is beautiful. You've got your brownstone buildings, which is typical of the Beacon Hill area. You've got your brick and cobblestone streets and sidewalks, and also gas lampposts. Now, don't go away, because next up on PM Magazine, Deborah and I will square off on Beantown and the Big Apple. We'll take a look at some common complaints of each in a moment. If you've been to Boston or New York City, then you'll realize that each town is uniquely different. You know, they've got their good points, they got their bad points. Now, I happen to believe that the people here in Boston are very friendly. New Yorkers, on the other hand, can be downright rude. Well, Deborah, now it's time for you and me to square off.
What do you mean people in New York aren't friendly? Let me try. Excuse me, miss. Would you... Okay, so I made a bad choice. Let's try. Excuse me, sir. Will you chat with me for a sec? Okay, excuse me. Hi. Okay, maybe New Yorkers aren't friendly.
We're friendly. We're friendly. That's not true. We're friendly. What are you doing for dinner?
We are the most friendliest people in the world. I want you to know there's nothing friendlier than New Yorkers.
Ah, you'll talk to me, won't you?
I sure will.
They say people in New York aren't friendly.
Not true.
Big myth, isn't it?
Big myth.
Everyone you've always met around here has been friendly, right?
We're friendly.
See, so you come to New York and people are going to be friendly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, you may not find your best friend at Bloomingdale's, but Tim, I hear everyone in Boston are rather cold and snobby.
Oh, Deborah, now come on. If snobbish or being stuffy means being warm, friendly, and charming, then I'm afraid Bostonians are delightfully guilty. Excuse me, sir. Now, do you consider yourself snobbish?
No, not at all.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Have a good day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you talking to me.
Good.
Now, see that, Deborah? Case in point. Oh, and think about this now. Fresh air. Oh, and what about the wonders of nature like the sun? You can't see the sun in New York City. Also consider this. We have plenty of space to live, to breathe, to enjoy life. Space to park our cars. Now, in New York City, you can't park your car without taking out a loan first.
Okay, so parking is at a premium, but there are garages if you can afford it. But why not leave the car at home, take a train, bus, or plane into the city, and use mass transit? Now, I rode the New York subways for 5 years, and I loved it. It's totally safe if you're traveling in the tourist areas, and the sightseeing on board is usually pretty interesting. But Tim, you're one to talk. Traffic in Boston is so bad, all the cars are dented.
Okay, Deborah, now take note. Here's something you will not see in New York City during rush hour. It's called moving traffic. In fact, this is the Indy 500 compared to Manhattan. Also keep in mind that Bostonians do obey their traffic signals. In New York City, stopping for a red light is only a suggestion. The law says it would appreciate it if you stopped. And hey, Deborah, what about those long lines? You wait in line for everything. In fact, even the lines in New York City have lines.
Yes, Tim, New York is crowded, and we wait online for just about everything, but we wait gladly, right?
Right.
It's worth waiting for. You see the best of Broadway, foreign films. We even wait in line for restaurants because you can eat any cuisine in the world. In Boston, the only food worth eating is seafood.
Now, come on, Deborah. That's almost below the belt. Look, we've got Boston baked beans, Boston cream pie, Boston brownies. No seafood in those. Now, so what if our seafood is some of the best in the world right here in Boston? It's just another burden we'll have to bear. And look at it this way. At least here in Boston, you can afford to eat.
Well, you can spend a lot of money in New York, but you'd be surprised how many things are free. The parks, skyscrapers, atriums, exotic neighborhoods, and landmarks like Times Square all provide free backdrops for the best people watching in the world. Window shopping is a favorite pastime, and even the world's best museums are free on certain days.
And here at AT&T's InfoQuest, a computer for free will take your picture and scramble your face. And I thought I looked weird before.
Now, we can go on and on about which city is the best and which city is the worst. But look at it this way. We could all be living in Los Angeles.
We're going to have to bring our comparisons between Boston and New York City to a close tonight, but you still have time to vote for your favorite, and I'll tell you how in just a minute.
Good evening. This is Eyewitness Newsbreak. Concern about the recent fire at the Laurel Park landfill prompting a meeting in Naugatuck tonight. Residents say they don't like the way the fire department handled the blaze and the evacuation.
Senate Democrats now in the majority meeting in Hartford tonight to select new leaders.
And a new shelter for the homeless opens in Meriden, the state promising to open more.
Join us at 11.
With natural sights like the Brooklyn Bridge, how could anyone prefer Boston over New York City? But you already know my preference, and we'd like to know yours. So we have two 900 numbers available for you to voice your vote. It'll cost you 50 cents, but tonight's your last chance. Here's how.
We'd like to know which city you like the best, and you can tell us by calling our special PM Magazine telephone numbers.
If Boston is your kind of town, call 1-900-720-6300.
But if you think New York is tops, call 1-900-720-6303.
That's 1-900-720-6300 for Boston.
and 1-900-720-6303 for New York.
Phone lines are now open and will be open until 10 tonight. We'll give you the results on this Friday's PM Magazine poll show. You'll be charged 50 cents for the call.
And if you'd like a list of where Tim and I visited in New York and Boston this week, along with a list of things to do there, send us a self-addressed stamped envelope with 40 cents in postage to Boston and New York, care of PM Magazine, 3 Constitution Plaza, Hartford, Connecticut, 06115.
Now keep in mind that tonight is your last chance to call our 900 number to let us know which is your favorite town to visit, Boston or New York City. Now each call will cost you only 50 cents apiece. Our phone lines will be open until 10 p.m. tonight. We'll have all the results tomorrow night in Connecticut on our PM Magazine poll show. This, by the way, is the Bull and Finch Pub on Beacon Street here in Boston, better known on television as the Cheers Pub. If you're in Boston, stop by and see it. Well, now here's a look at tomorrow night's PM Magazine.
Don't touch that dial. Tomorrow is our PM poll on television.
We asked America which TV couple has the best chemistry. The number one answer just may surprise you.
Then, calling all cars. If you faced a real emergency, what TV cop would you call to the rescue?
And if Mike Wallace and his camera crew knocked on your door, what would you do? See how many Americans said they'd slam the door shut.
That and more tomorrow night in southern New England. Till then, in New York City, I'm Deborah Kent.
And I'm Tim Klein from Boston. Have a nice evening, everybody. See you tomorrow night in Connecticut. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Klein on the campus of the world-renowned Harvard University, just outside Boston in the town of Cambridge. Now, Harvard is the nation's oldest institution of higher learning. It was founded over 350 years ago, and it is just one more thing that gives Boston its youthful spirit. Now, more on Harvard University in just a moment, but first, the story of a young boy's love for his girlfriend. Now, a few months ago, a young boy by the name of Felipe Garza had a premonition that he was going to die and leave his heart to his girlfriend who was suffering from heart disease. Well, that premonition came true, and today, young Donna Ashlock has a new lease on life. Donna's medical bills run as high as $16,000 a year, mainly due to medication she takes to keep her body from rejecting her new heart. Well, we are still on the campus of Harvard University, and behind me is Memorial Chapel here in Harvard Yard. This is where the graduation ceremonies take place each and every year. And most recently, Prince Charles was here to address students and dignitaries on the 350th anniversary jubilee of Harvard. But don't go away, because next up on PM Magazine, we'll meet Jacqueline Smith. Stay with us. Welcome back to PM Magazine and to Harvard University. This is Harvard Square. It really is a crossroads for students from all over the world, and it is here you'll find people from all walks of life. Years ago, John F. Kennedy walked these very same streets when he was attending Harvard, as did other famous people like Henry Kissinger, for example. Well, I think one of the main things that gives Boston and New York City their unique charm are the people. And tonight, we're going to give you a taste of both. During the past 2 nights on PM Magazine, we've been showing you the highlights of both Boston and New York City. Now, one of the highlights, of course, of the Boston area is Harvard University. This happens to be Lowell House, which is a campus residence for upperclassmen, and it's a neat reason to come and visit Boston. But we want to know what your favorite city is. Now, is it Beantown or is it the Big Apple? We want you to vote on that, and here's how to go about it.
I'm Deborah Kent.
And I'm Tim Klein. Now, tomorrow night I'll be taking you to Copley Place here in Boston, which is a great place to shop. So that's it for PM Magazine tonight. Stay tuned now for Eyewitness News coverage of the election right here on Channel 3. In the meantime, have a nice evening. We'll see you tomorrow night.